Thank you guys for being here today. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is King. I am the Director of Product Management for Daikin Comfort Technologies, which really has ownership of Goodman, Amana, all the Daikin brands. Just a little bit about myself before we start. I've been with the company for about 7.5 years now under various product management roles, res pack, furnaces, coils, air handlers. Last time I was here actually was back in 2017 when Superior had their meeting here. And at that time, I think I was only over res packs. And, a few years later, it's like, cool. All right, now I'm here in a different role, a little more oversight into different products. So I can provide that perspective now a little better. So glad to be here. Beautiful place. I don't know, how's the beach here? I've never actually gone to the beach here. Is it like a normal beach? Is the water cold? Is it like Miami warm? Okay, all right, okay, it's a pretty cool place. Yeah, well, I mean, so in Houston, yeah, talking about clear, the closest beach that we have in Houston is Galveston. Have you guys heard of Galveston? Awful. Talking about, yeah, it's disgusting. It's like the water is brown. I think when you walk, yeah, I think as soon as you walk into the water and you come out, like you grow like a third arm or something. It's radioactive, it's dirty. So I'm sure the waters here are a little bit better than that. Anyways, today what I want to go over is our 2023 product, provide you guys an overview of our lineup and really what's going on in 2023. All right. You guys heard about what's going on in 2023 and the regulatory changes? Are you guys aware of it and know exactly what the changes are going to be? Sort of, kind of. Some of them shaking their head. Good. If you're shaking your head, that's why you're here, right? What I can tell you what it isn't is it is not a refrigerant change. That's a common misconception that I hear from a lot of people that I talk to. They think that in 2023, there's going to be a big refrigerant change and we're going to switch to the A2L and Daikin's going to go into R32. No, that does not happen in 2023. That's actually going to occur in 2025. So we have a couple years until that happens. A lot of states haven't quite adopted the acceptance and installation of A2L refrigerants yet, which means that, all right, we'll wait until 2025 for that to happen. But 2023, every few years, I think every like 7 or 8 years, the Department of Energy, the DOE, they sort of evaluate the landscape of our industry and make sure that the minimum efficiency standards, our testing requirements to qualify our systems, they're aligned with the direction that they want the industry to head towards, right? And the way that they want the industry to head towards, you see a lot of momentum and tailwinds for energy efficiency, right? Electrification, things like that. So in 2023, 2 big things are going to happen. Number one, it's test standard change. Test standard change really affects us as a manufacturer. So in order for us to qualify any system, any equipment to go in commerce, to get an HRI rating, to be able to sell, we need to pass every single piece of equipment under a test procedure called the M test procedure. And what that test procedure does is it gives us guidelines and conditions that we need to test our equipment under so that we can get a resultant efficiency metric. So under the M test conditions, it gives us conditions such as higher static pressure, for example, right? Static pressure, today we test to 0.1 inches. So for me to hit, for example, 14 SEER, I only need to test and overcome a static pressure of 0.1 inches. In 2023, that test procedure changes from the current M to a new test standard called M1. And under the M1 test conditions, all these conditions, all these factors change. They become much more stringent and much more strict. So static pressure, right? Today, in order for me to hit an efficiency, I need to test it to 0.1 inches. In 2023, under the M1, that static pressure requirement increases to 0.5 inches. So I know in your world, you say, all right, 0.5 inches, that's more of a realistic application that you see every day, right? However, for us as a manufacturer, what we see is, well, now in order for me to hit that same efficiency and qualify my equipment, I need to overcome 5 times the amount of static pressure. So you can imagine what that does for us when it comes to designing our equipment to overcome 5 times the amount of static pressure. Default motor watts. When you think about efficiency, right? Efficiency, that calculation, that that formula is output over input, right? So default motor watts, this really involves a little bit more with coil only ratings, but my consumption, my default consumption increases from 365 watts to 441 watts. My input, right? My electrical consumption is increasing, which means that in order for me to compensate, I need my output to increase that much more to overcome this increase in electrical usage in order to qualify my equipment and get a certain efficiency rating. Heating load. We're taking a step back and starting at 55 degrees rather than 65 degrees. So all these things put a lot of put a lot of pressure into us in our design. So under the M test conditions today, under 0.1 inches static pressure, under 365 watts default motor watts, 65 degrees heating load, we get a resultant efficiency metric. SEER, ER, HSPF, you guys are very familiar with that. You guys love these terms, right? You guys use it every day. Because all the conditions change in 2023 under the M1 test procedure, your result's going to change, right? I'm not testing under the same conditions. It's not apples to apples here. So things are going to change for you in 2023 as far as how you recognize efficiency. It's going to be under terms such as SEER2, ER2, HSPF2. This is actually the HSPF to HSPF2 cross-reference, a little typo. This should actually be 7.0. But this shows you a little quick cross-reference. 14 SEER is equivalent to 13.4 SEER2, 15 SEER equivalent to 14.3 SEER2, so on and so forth with ER2 and HSPF2. So that's the first part of the changes in 2023. This just shows you all the different values that are changing, right? From SEER, ER, HSPF to SEER2, ER2, and HSPF2. What I need you guys to really sort of remember and memorize are in your market, right? Things are going to start at a minimum efficiency of this right here, 15 SEER and 14.5 SEER. So you need to remember, all right, your minimum efficiencies in 2023 are going to start at 14.3 SEER2 and 13.8 SEER2 for ACs. For heat pumps, they're 14.3 SEER2. That's one level that you need to know, right? That's minimum efficiency. Your next step up, 16 SEER, right? That's equivalent to 15.2 SEER2. Got to remember that. 16 SEER changes to 15.2 SEER2 equivalent. And then as we get into sort of the higher efficiencies, right? 18 SEER, equivalent to 17.2 SEER2, and then 20 SEER, equivalent to 19 SEER2. So those are sort of like the important metrics that you'll need to know, get familiar with, and remember come 2023. The second part of all this is the increase in the minimum efficiency standards. In 2015, they introduced some regional differences depending on the utilization and the usage of some of these systems. So we're seeing increase, a bump of essentially like a SEER point across the board. So you guys are here, right? In the Southeast area, this is your market. So this is what you need to know. Nationally, heat pumps, things move up from 14 SEER today, bump up about a SEER point to equivalent about 15 SEER. then you need to translate that to a SEER 2. So 14 SEER, new minimum efficiency for heat pumps jumps up to 15 SEER. Translate that to 14.3 SEER 2, because everything is going to change in SEER 2 and ER2 HSPF2 terms. This changes from to 7.5 HSPF2, which is equivalent to 8.8 HSPF. For AC splits, there's going to be an introduction of, if you're less than 45,000 BTU, your minimum efficiency jumps from 14 SEER to 15 SEER. Translate that to 14.3 SEER 2. Okay. Anything greater than 45,000 BTU, that jumps up to 13.8 SEER 2, which is equivalent to about 14.5 SEER. Any questions on this so far? Does that make sense? Okay. Res packs, whether it's heat pump or AC, one good thing is that your minimum efficiencies do not increase. Okay. However, we are launching new product with res packs because of the new testing procedure. We have to qualify all our equipment under these new testing procedures with all these new conditions, no matter what. So we talked a little bit about, all right, what are the changes? You know, what are the new products? The other aspect of this is, what do we do with our old product? What do we do with our current product? We're sitting a lot of GSX 14s, for example, right? GSZ 14s. What can I do with those? So what is going to dictate what you can continue to install in 2023 or not of your current product is going to be governed by that yellow hang tag, that energy guide hang tag that you see on every outdoor unit. If that energy guide hang tag, if it has a SEER value that's lower than the minimum efficiency standard in your region, you cannot install that in 2023 for ACs. So what does that mean? From an AC level, today you're able to sell GSX 14s, right, in your region. However, that yellow hang tag, it shows a SEER value of 14 on there. That's under the threshold of the new minimum efficiency standard in your region of 15 SEER, which means that you cannot install GSX 14s in 2023. So you have them in your barn, make sure they're out of there, okay? GSX 16 SEER, single stage, two-stage product. We have a coil only rating with our 16 SEER products that hit 14.5 SEER. So the yellow hang tag, that energy guide label, shows a SEER value of 14.5 SEER. That's under the 15 SEER threshold in this region, in this area, which means that 16 SEER of the current product can install that in 2023. Okay, so 18 SEER, right? 18 SEER, our lowest rated system that we have with 18 SEER, that's above the 15 SEER threshold. If you have an AC that's 18 SEER and up, you guys can continue to install that in 2023 if you have them available. Heat pumps, good thing about heat pumps, because they're regulated nationally, and there's nowhere for these heat pumps to go because they're regulated nationally, right? I mean, what are we going to do with a 14 SEER heat pump if the whole nation, if the whole United States is moving up to 15 SEER? You don't want to, the DOE doesn't intend for just obsolete product just be sitting there and destroyed, right? That's not good for the environment. That's not good for anyone. That's not good for business. So heat pumps, because they're regulated nationally, there are no restrictions. So if you have a GSZ 14, a GSZ 16, you can continue to install those in 2023. The restriction is that for us as a manufacturer, we can't build anymore. We can't manufacture any more of the current product come 2023. But for you as you know, contractors and business leaders in your community, for heat pumps, if you guys have the current heat pumps, the GSZ 14, 16s, if you have them in your barn, you can continue installing those in 2023. Any questions on this?
One more time on that. So if you have a straight AC, it's under those limits.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Heat pumps with 14, if we have them in stock, we are allowed to
Exactly. Heat pumps, no limitation. If you have the current heat pumps, continue to install those in 2023. ACs, the restriction is you can only install them if it's 18 SEER level and up, for our products at least, right?
So you could actually use a heat pump on a dual fuel cooker.
Yeah. Yep.
But where you gonna get if you got it?
Yeah. I mean, I'll talk a little bit more about our strategy when it comes to, shifting into 2023. But very, very good recognition there.
What's the punishment? Who's gonna enforce it?
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? Who's going to enforce it? I'm going to say that there's, this is a Department of Energy federal level. How it's going to be, it's a mandate, right, that we need to get there. How it's going to be governed, it's, I don't know what's going to happen. All I'm going to say is this: you don't want to be caught with it. You don't want to be the person that gets, their license taken away by knowingly installing a system that doesn't qualify, right? So I'm going to say you don't want to take that risk. From what I understand, there can be, financial penalties, your license stripped away, things like that, if you did get caught. One of the things that we teach from a compliance standpoint is always comply with your regulations, right? Especially when they're federal changes. These are federal changes, right? They're going to be enforced by maybe inspectors, right? They're going to take a look at it and make sure that, all right, this is qualified. They may report it, and you don't want to be on the losing end of that. We always encourage you to keep records of all your installs, so that when the time comes, in case you do get audited, you can show the correct paperwork, right? That, all right, I've complied with all these new regulations. So, yeah. Which leads me to the next thing. What does installation mean by the book, right? So installation of central air conditioner means the connection of the refrigerant lines and or electrical systems to make the central air conditioner operational. I'm going to say that the main thing here to take away, based off of other definitions, like, from not just from the DOE, but like for CE and all that, they really emphasize the connection to the refrigerant lines. They want things to be brazed in and completed that way. So I would say prioritize the connection of the refrigerant lines when it comes to installations. Okay, that's what it means for installation. So when you're talking about, all right, I have a situation where I have a GSX 14, it's December 31st, 2022, I need to get this installed. What qualifies as an install? Braze everything in, okay? Get that done. There's going to be some ramifications and impacts when it comes to cost and performance in 2023. Obviously, anytime we're moving up in efficiency level, anytime we are faced with a situation where the testing factors and conditions are much more strict and stringent, there's going to be some impacts to our products. Higher performance components are going to be utilized, right? Compressors, higher efficiency compressors, our motors, you see them on our furnaces. We moved from the 5-speed taps to 9-speed taps. We're going to expand the use of our TXVs. Here in the South, every single indoor is going to require a TXV, whether it's a coil, whether it's an air handler. So your ARUFs, your CAPFAs that utilize a piston today, those are going away. The fact of the matter is, in order for us to hit these higher efficiencies, we're needing to go to TXVs on the indoor side. No way around that. In some cases, our outdoors are going to have to grow in size, right? You see the differences when we moved up from 13 SEER to 14 SEER and now to 15 SEER, right? Without factoring in any of these like increased conditions on us from a testing standpoint, just the changes in the efficiency, every single time we've moved up our footprints, right? Or we've grown in size. Now you have the added layer of increased conditions on us for qualifying our equipment, well, in a lot of cases, you're probably going to see your footprint grow in size. The reality of it is I can only extract so much performance and efficiency out of a certain platform of product, right? Out of a certain footprint of product. At the end of the day, I need more airflow. I need more heat transfer surface area with coils on our outdoors in order to achieve these new ratings. So larger units, we're going to have to consume more commodities, right? Copper to build our coils, sheet metal to build our louvers and our tops and things like that. So that's going to come at a cost as well. We've invested in some new technology to get us there as well. So it's not just, all right, we're going the pathway of increasing, the size and using higher performance components solely. We have a new fan system. I'll talk about that in a second. So how can you identify an AHRI? What is a 2023 qualifying matchup and what's not? Really, you have to look at two columns right here, right? ER and SEER, and there's a new column for these new metrics called ER2 and SEER2. So if you're going and browsing the HRI directory and you see something listed solely under SEER and ER, but not SEER2 and ER2, that means that this is only rated for M condition, not M1. If you see it rated with SEER2 and ER2, that means that this is an M1 rated system. This is, can be used for 2023 and beyond. Okay. This just shows you, hey, there's a certification that's already live and online in HRI for these SEER2 and ER2 and these new 2023 systems. General reminder here is always check for HRI certification. Cannot stress this enough because oftentimes, and I know how creative you guys can get sometimes with your installations and matchups. Sometimes we come in situations where, all right, maybe something that's not a system is installed, an inspector comes in, checks it out, and they don't pass the system. And all of a sudden it becomes a fire. Hey, can you get this rated? No, we can't. There's a reason why we couldn't rate it in the first place. So always make sure that there's an HRI certification so that it's a qualified system. All right, go into the products, directly. We'll start with our gas furnaces, our 80% and 90% here. These were launched in January 2022. We moved the motor speed taps from 5 to 9. So why do we launch them ahead of the outdoors? We wanted to get the furnaces done first before the new outdoors so that we can deplete the inventory of existing furnaces that do not have the power and the oomph to match up with our outdoors. So we wanted to deplete the existing inventory of the 5-speed tap, purge it, get the market filled with 9-speed taps, introduce our outdoors, get those ratings, and now you have a full system, right? We don't want there to be any mismatch when it comes to an imbalance of inventory of old and new. The nomenclature is pretty straightforward here. The motor, previously we had something like a GMES or a GMEC for our multi-speed motors in the 3rd digit. Now that changes to a 9. So anytime you see a 9 here in this 3rd digit, that means that it's a 9-speed tap model. So very easily identifiable. Oh, okay. Here's our full lineup of furnaces that we have for communicating models. And this is something that you've seen before, just a very high level. All right, we offer everything from the modulating 97%, all the way down to, an 80% communicating. And, the main thing to take away here is that for 2023, we didn't do a single thing on these communicating models. These have not changed. These will continue to be used and matched up with 2023 outdoor equipment. So no changes with our communicating furnaces. This is where all the changes are, right? All the 9-speed taps. You see the 9 in all these models, in the middle of all these models. So all our GMECs, all our GMESs, those have changed to a GM9C and a GM9S. We're still utilizing the same amazing features that we have today, such as using a tubular heat exchanger, stainless steel secondary heat exchanger on the 90%. We're still offering the same type of warranties, lifetime heat exchangers for these models that you see here, and 10-year unit replacement. So we still have those very robust support and features on our furnaces. The only thing that really changed is we changed the blower housing a little bit, and we added the new motors. Here's the full line of changes, from our old models to our new models. And you see here, we got everything covered, right? We didn't remove any options for you guys. If there was an 80% furnace at 60,000 BTU with a 3-ton blower, we converted that. You still have that option with the 9-speed tabs. So we did not remove any options during this transition for our furnaces. What's new? Why did we move to a 9-speed tab? What kind of benefits does it offer? With 5 speed taps, we were very restricted in finding a speed tap that was optimized for a certain application. 60,000 BTU furnaces, for example. With 5 speed taps, and you have some that are already reserved for heating, for fan, right? You only had maybe like 1 or 2 that you could really use of the available 5 to find an optimal setting for a given application, a given tonnage. So for 60,000 BTU, we only really get like 1 airflow setting that we were flexible with, and we set that to optimize for like 2 ton, which means that 1.5 ton, 2.5 ton, and 3 ton, we see a lot of 60,000 BTU furnaces used in those tonnages as well. However, because the only available speed tap that we could use was already reserved for 2 ton and optimized for 2 ton, we couldn't have that optimization for 1.5 ton, 2.5 ton, and 3 ton, which means that, well, maybe the ratings weren't as great for those applications. Maybe we couldn't even secure a rating at all. So by increasing from 5 speed tap to 9 speed tap, right? Now I have more available options, more airflow settings that I can optimize for different applications, different tonnages. So that same 60,000 BTU that I talked about, that example, now I can find optimization for 1.5 ton, 2 ton, 2.5 ton, and 3 ton, and give you guys ratings for that. In addition, we thought, okay, we can introduce some ways to make your life easier. 3-digit 7-segment LED display to readily identify any issues, on the furnace, so you can troubleshoot a little more easily. Push buttons instead of dip switches, and Bluetooth compatibility for all furnaces. It's not just reserved for ComfortBridge furnaces anymore. You can have Bluetooth commissioning and capability on every single furnace, including the 9-speed tap, the multi-speed. And what you do is you simply get a Bluetooth plug-in module. It's the BTPIM. That's the part number there. You buy it once, you take it with you on every install, plug it into the control board, and you can commission your system through Bluetooth. So very cool new feature. Coils and air handlers. Illumifin 7, hopefully you guys are very familiar with it at this point, because we launched it back in 2018, award-winning, very proud of it. We really enhanced the feature set on these coils with the Illumifin 7, but we're expanding the application of Illumifin 7 in 2023. So gone are your 3/8 coils, your CAPF, gone are using those 3/8 coils in our air handlers. Illumifin 7 is going to be applied on air handlers as well. So very exciting right there. When it comes to 2023 nomenclature for coils, it's pretty straightforward. There's really no changes with this. All we really did is I talked earlier about needing to use and expand the usage of TXVs in all our indoor to secure ratings for the South. So really in the 4th position, today you use CAPFA, right? CAPF, CAPFA. that F is piston. That changes to a T for TXV. So your CAPFAs changes to a CAPTA. Very straightforward there. Here's our full lineup of evaporator coils. We're going to continue to offer everything from your slab coils, the CSCF, your vertical upflow coils, and your horizontal coils. There's going to be no changes to our offering when it comes to application. What is going to change in your world is, as I mentioned, the need to use a TXV. So CAPFAs, starting in 2023, you cannot use any CAPFAs unless it's with a field installed TXV. Okay, you're going to need to install a TXV, whether that's going to be field installed or use a CAPTA, which is factory installed.
What is the ETA on those big coils, the CHPTA and the CAPTA?
Yeah, those are actually available now. We launched this.
Age is available?
Yeah. So CAPTAs, CHPTAs, those are available now. I would say start stocking them. Start shifting your inventory earlier than later when it comes to these coils. But yeah, I mean, full lineup here. We'll continue to support it with a great 10-year parts. Sure.
So for warranty purposes, I mean, a lot of these coils sitting out there 10 years parts on them. You're
Yep.
going to warranty the CPTA or CPFA? You're going to be able to do that swap.
Yeah, so from what I understand is they'll do the same or equivalent swap out when it comes to serving the warranties. So in this instance, let's say you have a CAPFA, right? You can have two options, right? You can swap it out with the CAPFA and just field install a TXV, or you swap it out with the CAPTA. So our warranty team will identify that, with you and work with you. But from what I understand, as far as like what the terms are, it's always equal or equivalent.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have to add a TXV because it's sitting on something. It's grandfather. It's 14 series.
Yeah. Yeah. Good question. So I want us to sort of reframe how we view our systems today, right? Because we're operating in a 14 SEER M condition world, right? Which means that when I shift to a 14.3 SEER 2, equivalent 15 SEER, right? And an M1 condition world, things change, right? So really compare this against maybe like your 16 SEER equivalent systems today, right? Whatever the footprint that you guys have on 16 SEERs, apply it, maybe to your new minimum efficiency standards. Does that make sense? Yeah. I want you guys to maybe like reframe your thinking a little bit. One thing I will say is that whether it's our outdoor or our indoor, what we attempted to do was our largest size, whether that's a 35-inch footprint on the outdoor, whether that's a 58-inch air handler, whether that's a D size width coil, the largest size is not going to increase any further. So take solace in that, right? Take comfort in that. We're not increasing our largest size in any of our equipment. We did try to have a focus towards limiting the size increases on your indoor, because we do recognize that usually this is going to be your inhibitor when it comes to installations, right? It's on the indoor. You're constrained by the size of your closet, the opening of your attic, right? Or basement, things like that. So we, for the most part, I will say, whatever you use for CAPF and the size that you have today, the CAPTA, it should not go up in size. There's certain instances where maybe you do need to maybe go to like the next height, right? So if you're using like a 22-inch, you may have to go up to a 26-inch high coil. But for the most part, we try to keep things as similar to what you guys use today. Any more questions on this? Okay. What is this? Air handler. With the air handler, we have 3 very distinct different nomenclatures for air handlers today. With our single piece multi-positional air handler, your wall mounted multifamily, your ceiling mounted multifamily. We try to bring some standardization in our model numbers and how we recognize them. So all these 3 different nomenclatures, we sort of restructured it so that, all right, you have a very common one, whether it's single piece air handler or multifamily. Here's the full lineup of air handlers that you will be seeing in 2023. Starting with the modular blower on the right, we'll continue to offer and support that. That will continue to be Comfort Bridge if you guys need that communicating aspect of it. AWST is what will be offered here in the South. If you guys do multifamily today, you use the AWF 1925, right? It's a X13 ECM motor with a piston. I talked about the need to use a TXV in all our indoors, right? So that changes, and we added a factory installed TXV in there. ACSF, that's the ceiling mounted. That will continue to be offered in a piston. You'll have to factory install it. You'll have to field install TXV for that. AMST. Today you have 2 different types of air handlers, right? That use. Wow, I said something that triggered it. Today you use an ARUF and an ASPT, right? For a lot of your installations with air handlers. That consolidates to a single AMST model. We had to get rid of the ARUF because that ARUF uses a piston, and we can't get the ratings with the piston anymore here in the South because of the new regulations. So that changes to an AMST. We consolidate those 2 families into one. And as you guys get into higher efficiencies, variable speed, communicating, the AMVT, that will be primarily matched up with 2-stage models, 2-stage heat pumps and air conditioners. That will come with a factory installed TXV. Think about this as your AVPTC replacement, and then your AMVE. If you guys do any inverters today, this comes with the EEV, factory installed EEV. That's matched up with your inverters. Just going a little more onto the AMST here. This is going to be your bread and butter, your volume air handler that you will be using in 2023. ARUF and ASPT consolidates into this AMST. What we did, right? Added a TXV in there. We put the new AlumaFin 7 evaporator coil, up to 3.5 ton. The 4 to 5 ton models will continue to utilize the 3/8. We introduced a new chassis size of 58-inch height and a C 21-inch cabinet. Previously, we only offered a 58-inch D-width cabinet. Very, very large air handler, right? So we introduced a 58C in the 4 ton so that you guys have that slimmer air handler as an option for 4 ton installation. We have an improved blower housing design that will improve the airflow with less static pressure. And we added the same 9-speed blower motor on our furnace, and we applied it onto our air handler. So a lot of changes with the air handler that you see behind this door, okay? But a lot of big improvements on this. Outdoor. This is fun. So with all our nomenclature, what we try to do is we wanted to create model numbers under the philosophy of making them distinct but familiar. And what I mean by that is distinct enough where you can identify what's a 2023 model, right? The 9-speed tap furnace, we put a 9 in there. So you can easily identify that it's a 2023 model. For this, for the outdoors, the 4th and 5th digit change on this. Previously, it was things such as GSX 14 and GSX 16 and things like that. So we had reserved 2 digits just for SEER, very unnecessary. So what we did is we changed this 4th digit into what we call a feature. So it's an alpha now. The 5th digit, that's going to be where we identify the SEER value, the SEER 2 value. It's only going to be 1 digit from 3 to 9. And you see how we identify it really right there, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this changes from numeric to alphanumeric. So when you see alphanumeric in the 4th and 5th digit, that means that it's a 2023 qualifying model. Familiar in the sense that GSX, GSZ, that does not change. You'll still be able to identify what's an AC and what's a heat pump. So from a re-education point of view, very, very minor, right? You only need to focus on the 4th and 5th digits to know whether it's a 2023 model or not. Here's our full lineup that we have to offer. I'll go through some of these changes in a little bit. I put a table here. But when you think about our base efficiency, right? Here in the South, we start at 4, right? Remember, our efficiencies increased to 14.3 SEER 2. 14, we took the 4 and we put it on here. That's how you identify whether this is a 14.3 SEER 2 model or not. So GSX N4, GSX B4, GSX M4s. These are all the models that will be used for base efficiency ACs here in the South. I'll talk a little bit about these differences in a sec. The step up, the 16 SEER that you use today, 16 SEER, remember, changes to 15.2 SEER 2. 15.5, right? That's what we put on there. So your 16 SEER changes to a GSX H5. And then as you move up to 2-stage, you'll notice that today we have, for some of you guys that do 2-stage, we have 2 2-stage families, a 16 SEER and an 18 SEER level. That consolidates into 1 2-stage family now. The 17.2 SEER 2, which is equivalent to the 18 SEER model. And then for those of you guys that, dabble in inverter, we have the GSX V9 for 19 SEER 2.
Is this tier 2 and M1 stuff specifically Daikin equipment products?
No,
Or is
no.
it
Across the board. All across the industry, right? Industry-wide.
SEER 2,
Oh, yeah. A lot of our competitors, just like us, as far as HI directory, they, are putting the M1, ratings in there.
They're making it really complicated by making it, it's 15 SEER, but it's really 14.3. They could just continue on with 15.
Yeah, and what I want to say about that is, because, the reason why that had to change all has to do with the testing conditions, right? All those conditions changed on us, which means that, well, if I'm changing the conditions, right, my result is going to be different. I mean, because I used it, for a different calculation altogether, right? So that's why things moved from like a SEER to a SEER 2. At first glance, I was sort of like had your viewpoint. I'm like, why can't we just use SEER, But the reason is because all those conditions changed on us.
I understand the change, but the customers can have more time. 15 SEER, but it's really 14.3. Most customers will never understand the difference.
Yeah. I will say that, all our competitors, they have a very similar structure in their model numbers as well. They're 14.3 SEER 2. They're identifying with just a 4, right? 15.2 SEER 2, they're identifying with just a 5. So everyone is going through the same change. Yeah.
Difference between the N4 and the B4?
Oh man, that is such a good question. Let me hold on there. I put a table together. That's a great question. Before we get to that, very quickly, our heat pumps, right? We have 2 levels of heat pumps for your different for your base efficiency. We have a GSZ B4 and GSZ M4. We have the step up, the 15.2 SEER 2, right? GSZ H5. Two-stage families get consolidated again here. 16, 18 SEER consolidated into 17.2 SEER 2. And then we have our inverter models as well. So some of the technologies that we implemented and incorporated into our 2023 outdoors is we designed a new condenser fan system, a CFS. At the end of the day, getting more airflow is so important for us to overcome these new test conditions. So we have a new design. This was the old one. This is the new one. You see that the opening is a little wider than it was previously. So we opened up the opening to provide more air, right, for it to come through. New Venturi rings. Venturi ring is flared out a little more. This is also to help promote more airflow. And you see the results right here, right? You know, the blue is our, you know, our models without the new CFS. Orange is the airflow with the new CFS. In some instances, depending on the size, you know, we saw like up to like 16 to 18% increase in airflow because of these new changes that we did. So very neat stuff. Okay, so this is our base efficiency. This is our bread and butter here, right? No drop in any SKUs, but you'll notice that we have a base, you know, we have a value, and then we have a multifamily here. This talks about it a little bit. We're going to touch upon it more in this table. So the GSX N4. Today, you guys use a lot of GSX 14s, 18s, 24s, 30s, 36, the even numbers. You guys use that a lot, right? That is basically the GSX N4 replacement, okay? GSX 14018, you know, 24s, those even numbers, that will be replaced by this GSX N4. It will have a lot of ratings, all the ratings you need. One rating that it will not have is horizontal coil only. So what coil, you guys know what coil only ratings are? So coil only ratings, if you just are going to swap out the outdoor and the coil and you want to keep the old furnace in there. Okay. Very small application. And as we head towards the future, I expect it to diminish a lot more. Previously, it was a very big deal because with PSC motors back then, before the FER changes, PSC motors were our bread and butter when it came to furnaces, right? So for coil only, it gave you a coil only rating because it gave you like just a standard default rating for PSC motors. So use the coil only to install with any PSC. Now, because of FER, the PSC motors have dropped off and we're using 9 speed taps. We're using variable speed. Those have a very specific matchup in HRI, right? We explicitly list the furnace in there, which means that coil only, not as big of a deal as it once was. So horizontal coils, is that a big application here?
Yeah,
Somewhat. Okay. Okay. All right. Long line set. No long line set for the most part. I mean, if you guys dabble in multifamily, that's going to be important to you. Tonnages, we have the full range, 1.5 to 5 ton. Rotary compressors, 1.5 to 2.5 ton. That's no different than what you guys experience today with GSX 14s, right? One cool thing about this is with the today, if you guys use any of these rotary models and you match up with an indoor with a TXV, you need to use a hard start kit, right? You guys are sort of familiar with the hard start kit. Yeah. So on the AC side, those will be factory installed now. So that's cool. You do not have to mess with the hard start kit. It's going to be factory installed. So these, it's just a drop in and just get that thing done. It will be rated with the multifamily indoor, so the AWST wall mounted and the ACSF ceiling mounted. It just won't have the long line set capability because of the rotary compressor. GSXB4. We use scroll compressors from 2 to 5 ton. We'll use the rotary on the 1.5 ton. But the difference between this and that, from a rating standpoint, is this line right here. This is the only line that's different. This one does not have horizontal coil only. This one does have horizontal coil only. If you don't use a lot of horizontal coil only, gravitate towards this. Reason being, it's priced more appropriately, right? We had to inject some cost in order to get this horizontal coil only rating with the GSXB4. From a financial standpoint, I think this N4 makes sense for most of your applications. GSX M4s, the M stands for multifamily. So this is designed around multifamily, almost purely. It has long line set from 1.5 to 3 ton. It's limited only up to 3 ton because, well, you guys don't use multifamily beyond 3 ton. The ratings are going to be limited to multifamily air handlers such as the AWST and the ACSF, 80% furnace with a vertical coil, right? So it replaces the 19s, the 25s, 31s, and 37s that are used heavily in the multifamily market today because of the long line set application. Any questions on this? Okay. Same thing with the heat pumps. We'll offer a base national model, and we'll also have a dedicated multifamily model, which is the M. So anytime you see the M, just know that's for multifamily. Res packs. Do you guys do res packs here? Okay, good. All right. Res packs, once again, distinct but familiar philosophy when it comes to the nomenclature. GPH, GPC, GPG, right? Heat pump, straight cool, gas electric. Those will continue to be identified by the first 3 digits of this. What does change is the 4th and 5th digit, right? Multi-positional horizontal, that will reside in the 4th digit now. Efficiency, we reduced it to 1 single digit, right? So rather than 14 and 16, now it's a 3 or a 5. That's how you identify it. This is the migration from current models on the left to 2023 models on the right. So your GPC 14H, your horizontal 14 SEER, that changes to a GPC H3, right? And what do you guys use primarily here in this market? M series gas. All right. So your focus is going to be right here, right? Your GPG 14, your GPG 16, those become GPG M3 and GPG M5 respectively. Basically, we moved this M over here. We replaced the 1, right? And then we changed the SEER term to 1 digit for SEER 2. So families are all covered. We're not taking or stripping away any offerings when it comes to res pack. This just sort of emphasizes that, right? So the gas packs, you'll start seeing these shipments very, very soon. We've already shifted our production on the line from these old models, these current models, into the new 2023 models. We should start shipping them very soon.
Go back to slide, Kate, if you would. Sorry, if you guys don't know, I'm Ken Campbell. I'm the regional sales director for Goodman Daikin. I just want to make sure you guys are all clear because we've heard 14.3, 15 SEER, et cetera, right? You guys are used to seeing 14 SEER on gas packs. Right. I don't want the confusion to set in. The 13.4, that is your new current gas pack. It's not the 14.3. There seems to be a lot of confusion with that. Know that this is what you guys will be installing in the future. Does that make sense?
Say that again.
13.4 SEER 2, right, will be the 14 SEER model you currently are installing now. That will be what you're installing in the future. It's not the 15.2. It's the 13.4. I get tons of questions about that. That confusing a little bit because we're used to 14 SEER, now it's 13.4 SEER 2. Just know that's the model you guys are going to be installing every day. Okay?
Gas packs don't have to be up to the same.
No.
level.
No. Gas tax are 13.4. That's where the confusion sets in. I just want to make sure you guys are clear on that.
Yeah, Ken, and that's probably a point of re-emphasization here. Right here, so the heat pump packs, right, on a national level, they stay the same, right? So 14 SEER, remember that's equivalent to 13.4 SEER 2. That doesn't change. ACs, 14 SEER is equivalent to 13.4 SEER 2. That doesn't change. Very confusing, right? Now we sort of,
You'll see where you were falling
Are
off.
we trying to get like to our tax code, our IRS code, make it that complex?
yeah.
It's government.
We're gonna call it 15.
Yeah. Okay, here's kind of what I think, guys. You guys are gonna have to change habit, okay? I know that's difficult. We're so used to saying 14 SEER, right? We're so used to saying SEER as the rating that identifies efficiency, period, right? We've got to change that habit now over to SEER 2, right? One thing, and that's 2, right? We've got to be able, and the reason we're in this class, and the gentleman over here mentioned earlier, you guys are out there, or whoever's out there, selling, has to be able to educate the consumer as well, right?
Now,
consumers
they're
are
gonna
told
say,
they
you make them pay more for less.
It's written, and then you're telling
Exactly
them
what they're gonna
Well,
say.
no, so that's the difference.
Well,
We keep saying 15 SEER, it's not. From now on, it's just 14.3
Yeah.
SEER 2. These consumers are smart enough to go online and read what the regulation requirements are, right? I would not explain it as 15 SEER. I would keep it as 14.3 SEER 2. Again, changing the habit of what we're used to in SEER, eliminate that, and let's slide over to SEER 2. That's what's gonna have to happen. Because if you start adding 2, that's where the confusion sets in.
That's fine, but you're gonna have to, or people have to educate themselves, people who understand SEER ratings, because now the SEER 2 rating is actually gonna be a lower number than what the SEER rating is.
It is.
So,
But it's,
if somebody starts questioning on that, then you're gonna have to go into explaining to them why that is.
so one thing that I was thinking about, there is a chart that King had up here that was kind of a crossover that showed today's current SEER versus what it's going to be SEER 2 and how they are equal per se, is keeping that chart in a band, what have you, and
Yeah, to
whatever
show
you guys are selling through to show the consumer.
Can you
This
print those
is,
out?
what's that?
Those charts?
Yeah, I can get some to Kat and we
Oh, yeah.
can print them off. Yeah, that's not a
Yeah.
problem.
To show the customer don't feel
That's
like
right.
you're trying to jerk them around.
Like I dealt with this yesterday with a contractor in Virginia Beach. He sold a 16 SEER AC. And the guy was an engineer, of course, and we all know how to identify an engineer, right? Because they tell you they're an engineer. No offense. There's a 16 SEER system. The distributor didn't have a 16 SEER system anymore, right? Superior can't order 16 SEER ACs from us right now. But they had the 15.2. So it came down to, he didn't know how to explain that to the consumer. He called me directly. He's like, if I need you to get on the phone, I'm not saying I can get on the phone with all you guys, but it's like, if I need you to get on the phone, I'm like, it's not hard, guys. Like, here, I'll share this with you, cross-reference guide that shows the lateral movement between 16 SEER and 15.2 SEER 2. He took that in the consumer understood, and then they installed the system. So it's going to happen. It's not going to be seamless on your side, but we can give you tools to help the homeowner understand what you're saying.
So the literature that comes with the book on these units, is it gonna say 15 SEER?
It's going to say 15.2 SEER 2, or 14.3 SEER 2. There will be no talks of SEER itself.
Okay.
Because really even today, depending on the efficiency, the tonnage, the application, you can sell a 16 SEER.
Right, it's
only at
15.5.
14 and a half. I mean,
That's
so
right.
It's really,
And it's the same with SEER 2.
Some people are gonna view it as less.
Well, I'll say this, the way to really explain it and the philosophy behind it is really behind the conditions, right? I talked about conditions being much more strict, much more stringent, going from 0.1 to 0.5 inches static pressure, default motor watts, right? 341 to 400 something. What that means is that if I stripped all those conditions away and moved that back to M, my 14.3 SEER 2 would really be 15 SEER or even higher than that. But because I applied those much more strict conditions, right, to my testing, my resultant is now a lower SEER 2 value. Does that make a little more sense? Does that close the gap a little bit?
I mean, for us.
Yeah. I know it's gonna be, here's the thing, at the end of the day, the world in 2023 is gonna flip to SEER 2 and ER2. Unless a homeowner is like super involved in the industry and, you know, reads all these trade magazines and all that, they probably have no idea that this change happened, right? They don't orient themselves, you know, quite the way that we do in our industry and have the background knowledge that we have. They don't live in it like we do. So for them, when we start introducing SEER 2 and ER2, they don't know what the cross-reference is. They won't know that. All that's going to be presented to them is 14.3 SEER 2. And I'm like, okay. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of explaining that is going to be required to the homeowner, because really they're not going to have all that background like we do. So this information is much more applicable to us, right? As we try to understand, all right, what is changing? How is it changing? Why is it changing? Okay. Okay, here's a very, very cool transition map, phase in, phase out map. You know, that shows you, all right, today, these are all the AC and heat pump systems that we use from top to bottom, right? Highest efficiency inverter, all the way down to the base efficiency 14 SEER. And this is what it's going to change to in 2023. So when we think about the highest efficiency AC systems, right? GVXC20, today we match it with the CAPF or CHPF and maybe a modulating furnace, right? When I look at this equivalent system in 2023, GVXC20 changes to a GSXV9. CAPF, CHPF, that will continue to be used only with the inverter system. GMVM, remember I talked about modulating variable speed furnaces not changing for 2023. You'll continue to use the same, right? That's what ongoing is here. Two-stage, right? You have a GSXC 16 and 18 today. That consolidates into a GSXC 7. We use a CAPF A coil today. That changes to a CAPT, CAPTA coil. Factory install TXV, remember. GMVC, right? Variable speed furnace. That doesn't change for 2023. Use the same model that you guys are using now. GSX 16, right? Your 16 SEER, use a CAPFA, CHPF, a GMEC furnace. How do we translate that? GSX 16 changes to a GSX H5. You're using a CAPTA or a CHPTA coil. 9-speed tap furnace, right? The GM9C. And then for your base efficiency, GSX 14, very much the same type of transition, right? GSX 14 to the GSX N4, use a TXV coil and a GM9S furnace. We take a look at the heat pump matchups, right? GVC 20 inverter changes to a GSZV9, AVPEC changes to an AMVE. Two-stage, this actually should consolidate into, oh no, this is existing. 18 and 16 SEER consolidates into one family and you use an AMVT. 16 SEER changes to a GSZ H5. ASPT, you now use the AMST. With your 14 SEER, you're going to use the 14.3 SEER 2 model. You'll use the AMST on that as well for heat pumps. This also shows the last order request date, and then when the first shipment dates are for these 2023 models and whether we've launched them or not. I can send this to you, Kat, and you can distribute it out as you want. This is very helpful. This gives you that cross-reference from current models to new models, when the last buys were, when the new products are going to ship. what exactly is changing, if anything, right, ongoing or not. So this is a very, very helpful tool for you. Also outline some current products in red right here. You'll notice I made a little note, can be installed if manufactured before 2023. AC, right? Remember, AC installation begins at the 18 SEER level for current products, because anything 16 SEER and below doesn't hit the minimum efficiency for 2023. Heat pumps have that whole thing in red, because we have no restrictions when it comes to installations of current legacy heat pumps in 2023. Be on the lookout for PMNs. This is our way to communicate with you. Kat, if anyone isn't set up yet, definitely let's make sure that happens. But this is a way for us to communicate new products, important information. So we had this transition table sent out earlier in the year. Our product PMNs are complete with very important information, such as maybe some of the features, the model numbers, matchups, where you can find literature, the dimensions, sound, electrical, right? All of this can be found in our product announcements. We also have a lot of tools available to you. You guys want to dive a little bit deeper into this or have a reference guide on your hand. We have a national training effort led by our sales training staff that really talks maybe about the same things that I have, maybe not as much detail into the product itself, but just high level. Hey, this is what's going on in 2023 and how you comply. We develop a lot of dealer facing materials, such as a brochure that details exactly what is going on in 2023, all the regulatory changes, changing from SEER to SEER 2, all the testing changes, the minimum efficiency increases. We have a presentation that we're developing. Webinars. Webinars are a great way for you to hear firsthand from the product manager all these new product changes, right? And what's going on. Also allows you a platform to be able to ask the product manager directly any questions that you guys have and have them answer to you. So it's a very good direct conduit right there, right? When it comes to connecting with the product manager. Here's our full product team, just so if you guys ever need to reach out to us. Our emails, we have a full staff here, and it continues to grow because there's so much regulatory change here. At the end of the day, as far as transition goes, you may have noticed that a lot of the heat pump stuff that's transitioning later on in the year, the reason being that allows us to focus production of current legacy heat pumps so we can get them in your hands, because you can continue and install those in 2023. Remember, there's no limitations with heat pumps. The transition for 2023 heat pumps, they're going to occur, in November and December. The higher efficiency stuff, right? The 20 SEER inverter ACs, those aren't going to transition until later on in the year as well. What we wanted to do is make sure that we didn't leave anyone with obsolete inventory of things that absolutely had such a hard deadline for transition. Things such as 14 SEER AC, 16 SEER ACs. We've already started transitioning those into the new 2023 product. So that's been our strategy with 2023. Give you guys the best chance to compete in today's market where you can, with legacy products that you can continue to sell through in 2023. But make sure that you guys aren't left with any stagnant inventory of things that you need to change in 2023. Okay. That's all I have on my end. We're here to support you, of course, any way we can. Your success is our success. So we have, a very, very, good relationship here. Let's continue to maintain that. That's all I have. Any questions?
I know everybody's pricing is going to be a little bit different, but is there any way you can give us some kind of like an average of what kind of price increase we're looking at on the equipment? Because I know you went up 9 speeds on that motor, the price ain't gonna be the same.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, what are we looking at as far as like a 16% increase on equipment, fan motors or anything?
Yeah, so with our outdoors, the ones that we have launched so far, we've seen about like a 20% increase. You know, and that's pretty on par with, you know, where we've seen everyone else. Everyone else has, yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about, I'm moving up in efficiency, right? So I always want you guys to use this as a frame of reference. We're moving up standard minimum efficiencies to a next level. What's the difference that you guys have with a GSX 14 versus a GSX 16, for example, right? Add a little on top of that because we need to overcome these new M1 conditions. So that's where, you know, a lot of that lies.
The only reason I'm asking is because you got a customer that has this unit and let's say they have a fan motor replaced and you know, the fan motor costs this amount. Now they go to have a new system and the new fan motor gets replaced and the customer's like, well, what the hell?
Yeah.
How can they afford to pay that kind of price if we keep bumping up everything else? You know?
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of what I'm looking for, is just like how much everything's gonna go up for the customer.
Yeah, yeah, and I get it. I mean, there's a lot of pressures, and obviously, it's not just isolated in our industry, right? We've seen it all across the board. Supply chain issues. We've seen commodities go up in price. Anytime there's like a small increase in commodities, such as copper, I think it's like a 1 cent increase is $1 million impact on us as a company. So we're very, very sensitive to the fluctuations of sort of these commodity changes.
Is the warranty, the years of the warranty going to increase?
The years of the warranty are going to stay the same. So we haven't stripped away any of the warranty coverage at all.
An offer good care.
Oh,
Yeah, good care is still good. Good care, sure care. Yeah, for sure.
okay. All right. Well, I wish you guys the best of luck. Just hit me up if you guys need anything else. All right. Thanks, guys.